Hey everybody, it's Leigh with Creative Aging Program with Arts Council OKC. And today we are going to do white charcoal horses. I know we've done the soft pastel horses before, so at least this kind of has foundation in the basic shapes of the horse. And we're still focusing just on the heads. And today, I'm going to do a little bit, our woodland animal charcoal drawings that we did, those animals were darker in color, in tone and the value. And so the horses, I thought it'd be kind of cool to do some with more whites in it so we can do a slow buildup of the pencils that way. So as usual for the materials, white charcoal pencil. We're also going to use a black charcoal pencil. That's nice contrast, and black construction paper, of course, and a big eraser, and your handy pencil sharpener. So, all right, you guys can do this, and let's get started. All right. Okay. All right, I'll set. Now, these are... like this one is, all of these are both in the early stages, but this one I have fleshed out a little bit more. It's still not finished, but it kind of gives you the idea of what we're going for. And so it's just a slow build up. I start out kind of light, and these, have the outlines, and it's just start by doing the outline of your horse. And I like to do it lighter, and what I mean by lighter in this instance is just don't press really hard, so that if you can erase it. But then the charcoal, as you know, is great because you can just kind of redraw lines. Like I adjusted the ear and moved this one over, and you don't have to make it perfect because you're going to go over it multiple times. So today we're going to work on the one with the bridle here. And so once you have your, get all my supplies close to me. Once you have your outline done and figuring out what color your horse is, if it's got lots of whites or mid-tones, because even though we're doing black paper and white charcoal, we're still going to try to create a lot of, darks and mid-tones and lights and high contrast. And that's why this is a slow process. So this one is kind of a paint horse. And I'm going to kind of sketch in the areas where I know I sketched them in, but I'm just going to do a light layer of white. And I'm just really lightly on the edge of the pencil, just kind of filling it in. And I'm I'm doing a little bit of a circular motion just because I think it's a little bit softer. And I'm trying to stay on the edge so I'm not just doing a hard line on the paper. Okay, and then, so I'm just going to kind of lightly fill this in. We're going to come over this a lot more later, but this is just I'm going to keep in here. And also, as with always, if there is a horse image that you really love, feel free to... There's lots of images online you can look at to kind of get the outline. And I'll do a few more examples too so that you can look at some others just to have a variety. You know me, I like to kind of give you guys a nice variety. So, I'm trying to fill in all of the places that I know that are going to be a bit lighter. And like this stuff is going to be lighter in here too. And I know this is going to be lighter in here. Because I find it helpful if you have like a reference image to look at while you're working on stuff. And it'd be really cool if we could, go out and look at real horses in person. That would be really awesome. But, can't do that. Though that would be cool. Okay. And... even still, what I like to do is stuff that's not even going to be really light. I just kind of want to get a layer of like the structure of where the major parts of the horse, because the edge of his ear kind of sticks up here, the side of it. And I know some of this is white over here, and I just want to kind of add a little bit. And we're still going to work on our directional line. So this, you know, it's pretty much flatter on a horse's face. And then over, you know, on his jaw, we're going to, even when we're kind of doing the circular motions, we're still going to kind of slowly kind of build it up. So you can do circular motions too, or you can just keep it really light and do a little mixture of both. I'm not using much pressure at all. I'm just kind of try to fill this stuff in. As you know, this is a slow process, so just keep going, and this is going to take a while because what we're doing is we're just kind of building up the areas of the horse and just slowly kind of building up the value between the lights and darks and the midtones. And it, you know, just wherever you want to start is comfortable, you know, for you is just do what's comfortable. And I like to kind of sketch out little areas that I know that are going to have different values so that I can kind of know where to do things. And you're going to come back in, like, you know, the line of the mouth, you'll come back in with a black pencil anyway. And this is, down here is going to be darker than up here, but it also will have some color in it anyway. So here again, I'm just kind of adding some color in here. And then if you want to, so that you don't lose your line, just kind of come in and add some black in here. Just to kind of, so that way you don't have to kind of worry about it. You're still going to come back over it again, but that's the bridle going into the mouth, but and then you can add some wider bits. You know, and see down here, because his lip is kind of rounded, I'm really using the circular motions. And it's okay that I'm making this pretty white and it's not totally white on the horse or in the picture anyway, so. So there's just, you know, and don't get discouraged. Just keep going. You know this takes time. You just got to be patient with yourself too. Because as I've said before, you know, art takes time. This should not take you 10 or 15 minutes. I know some of you are fast ones out there, but to get all of the layers built up, it takes some time. Good time for reflection and lessons in patience. And just be patient with yourself too. This is part of the learning process. And by doing, you know, small circles and by adding another layer, you see it already is adding some depth because some of it's lighter than others. And then too, if you're like, well, but I can still see some of the circular motions, that's fine. Just kind of come in with lightly with your finger and blend it in. But now, since the oils on your finger are going to pick up some of the pencil, so just know you're going to have to go over some of it again if you do that. But then it kind of softens it. And then if you want to, you can kind of do some more if you know where it's going to be wider. And then when it comes up here, and you know, at all times you can adjust, you know, what you want to do. Like if you think, oh, this line's a little strange, then kind of come down and use your eraser. Now just remember, when you're flicking your eraser bits off, you can still smear it, so just be aware. So just be gentle when you're getting your eraser bits off. Okay, and And sometimes when I'm doing this, I kind of like to use a little bit of the black pencil while I'm doing it too. And then too, you know, you can just kind of tap it just to kind of soften it a little bit. And I'm going to add some more in here. So just really kind of experiment and have fun and figure out, you know, how you like to do it. Because you're learning, you know, your own skills and what feels comfortable to you. Experiment with holding the pencil differently. You know, for some of the major filling in, you know, the different areas, I kind of like to hold it differently so it's kind of on its side, so I'm not tempted to, you know, use the point. You know, you can use the point really nicely for details towards the end when you want a really nice crisp white line or black line, either one. So now I'm going to kind of just kind of go in and use longer strokes with the pencil so you can really kind of see how the first growing here. So you see it's starting to take shape. And as you know, this is also a process that really comes together towards the end. So you're going to be working on this and working on this and, you know, maybe bad-mouthing me a little bit, saying it's taking forever, but then it's going to come together and you're going to go, oh, wow, I did that, and that looks really cool. And two, when you're drawing the horse and anytime during the outline or anytime when you're filling it in, pick it up and hold it away from you to get some perspective. You know, because when you're looking at it, and I know I sound like a broken record, but when you're looking at it and straight down, it looks a little different. And so if you get a bit of perspective, you can see that you're actually doing a nice job. You know, especially if you're getting frustrated, pick it up and hold it away from you, and then you can see other things that need to be adjusted if you need to adjust them. So I'm just going to keep adding little bits here. And this is something, you know, you're just going to be working on this for quite a while. And you're going to go over a lot of the same areas over and over again, but just each time you're building up those layers of pencil. Now, I'm going to go around this part of the nose here. Oops. And you know what? It's okay if your proportions are off on the horse. You know, the main thing is, since, you know, this is class and you're learning, the main thing is just to get in all of the parts and to where it mostly looks like a horse. And, you know, if you have the distance here is not quite as far as it really is in the image or whatever, no big deal. It's okay. Just keep going. You don't have to erase your whole image to redo it. You know, this is part of how we kind of embrace the mistakes, and that's not really a mistake. You just adjust your lines as you go. And if you have a lot of it done, then don't worry about it. But if it's something that you can simply adjust, you know, like if a line is too straight and it needs to have more of a curve, then just kind of come in, even in here, and just, I can still adjust the line even if I've done the black line. It's no big deal. So you just kind of blend them together, and then you can actually run your finger across it. And even you can use your eraser some, but you don't have to like erase it really hard and, you know, don't ruin the paper. Just relax, take a breath, and just keep going. This is supposed to be fun, after all. You know, horses are deceptively complex. They're really pretty simple shapes, you know. And another thing, when you're doing your outlines, you know, you have the nice jaw of the horse that usually swings up and connects into the ear. So that's kind of a good rule of thumb. If you've got the jaw, you can just kind of go up. You know, just take your time and be patient with yourself, because horses are interesting. you know, they're kind of like frogs. They're, like I said, deceptively complex to draw. But hey, if I'm challenging you, I'm challenging myself, because I don't usually draw horses either. So we're in it together. Yeah. So then you can kind of come back into those white areas that you know are going to be bright white, but you don't want it to be a flat bright white. You want to slowly build it up. You know, and then ultimately you have creative license, so you can make it as bright white where you want it. It doesn't have to be exactly like the picture, or even like this example. You get to have your own creative input. So. And even on top of the white, you'll come back in and add some black. You know, and then when there are areas that you know are dark in your image, you can definitely let more paper show, but then you can also add black charcoal too, because it adds even more contrast and then adds all that extra depth, which really brings your picture to life. So yeah, so just keep on keeping on. Okay, so you can see that I've obviously taken some time to fill in more of the horse, but I'm still working on it. So, you know, just be patient and just, you know, remember this takes a lot of time. I mean, you know, I'm trying to do this video in a short amount of time, and it at least takes an hour and a half to do these. So be kind to yourselves and just keep going. And so I'm just continuing to fill in areas. So I'll start, and then this is a way you can also fill in, but I'm also kind of trying to go along the lines of the horse, you know. So this is a good way to kind of fill in large areas that are all pretty much the same kind of consistent lines. And then you can go back in and add some more contrast. You know, the bridle is in here. But you can see how I've continued to layer in whites and started getting them a little darker, you know, meaning pressed harder to kind of get those brighter areas. And then I've gone back in and adjusted some lines that seemed a little off. So seriously, take a minute every few minutes and hold it up so you can see it in front of you and get some perspective. And then just keep going and seeing what's working. And then if something needs to be adjusted, then adjust it. And then remember, you don't have to start over. Just adjust your lines. Charcoal is nice that way, and that's why big erasers are very handy. And then too, you know, I've added lots of black in here as well, because then that gets really nice, crisp black lines for the edges of the bridle. And then also, you know, you'll take your white and kind of go in and do some really nice dark highlights. So to bring things out. And then if something gets a super white and you're not really sure about it, you can tap it first. You can use a little bit of the eraser. And then if you need to, then just kind of lightly go in and put in a little bit of black to kind of tone something down if it's not supposed to be bright white. And then just keep looking at your horse and figuring out the different planes of the, you know, horse's face shape. And, you know, directional lines are great. And if you can start by doing the circular motions, just that kind of gives a softer texture. But then if you want some areas where you can really see kind of some of the horse's fur and hair, then you can kind of go in and add little bits where you can kind of see it poking out. And another thing you can do is take your black and kind of go in the white, and it creates kind of the same thing, but just in the reverse with a little bit of the edge. And so just keep looking at it and going over it and adjusting things, and just be slow, because it's really easy if you get overexcited and impatient to add a lot of really heavy dark stuff that you don't like, and then you have to come back and adjust or erase a lot. So just breathe, take a minute, remind yourself that this is a class, you're learning new things, and horses are not easy. So kudos to you for sticking with it and seeing it through to the end, because you're going to really be excited about having a horse that you like in the end, because you know you will, because that's just the way this goes. You just keep working and working, and it looks really strange for a long time, and then it finally starts coming together. I mean, it happens to me too. You know, I work and work and work and go, oh my goodness, when's the horse going to show up? And voila, he kind of makes an appearance. So just keep going. And see how, you know, I've got some midtones going on and some really heavy blacks. And then sometimes if you think you have too much flatness, meaning, you know, the same kind of contrast, well, there's no contrast, so you have too many midtones, then just kind of take a minute, figure out where you want it to be a little bit brighter, and then slowly start kind of adding in more contrast. And then, you know, when you do that, then you can decide if you like it, and if you do, great. If not, then add some black or kind of take some out with your eraser. And so just, and then you can lightly come in here, and like if there's, you know, there's going to be some shadows in here because of the bridle, just I'm going to gently take some of the black over some of the white. And then I'll bounce back to the white and kind of add a little bit of white on top of the black. And just kind of do that a little bit. And it's a process. So, you know, in horses, you know, heads and faces, they have lots of different planes, so they move and shift. So if you're not familiar with them, it can be a little tricky. It's kind of a little tricky for me too, so just keep going and give yourself some credit. So and just keep going and be proud that you're, you know, keep on keeping on, and that you're challenging yourself to do new and different things. And maybe some of you are excellent horse drawers, so good for you, and I could probably learn some things from you too. So okay, let's see. And just keep working on it, and then when you get it to a place that you're like, okay, this is, I really like it, then stop. You know, sometimes you get to a place and you can't overwork it, so it is good to know when to say when. And really, whatever, there are lots of different ways of doing this, you know, making different kinds of lines in here. And I know I have a few different ways of doing it going on in mine. So just kind of wanted to give you a little, some options so you can kind of find what works for you. And then, you know, the metal bridle bit, you know, I went in and did a little brighter white because it's, you know, the light will reflect off of it nicely. So kind of here. So it's just a slow process. And I know you probably get tired of me saying that, but it's just, sometimes I feel like I need to remind you just to breathe and keep going. And I know you'll be excited in the end. So, and you can kind of, you know, horses have hair in their ears. I mean, we all do, but hopefully mine aren't as long as these. So. And you know, it is a little trickier when you're relying just on black and white to kind of get all the details, because you know, we're so used to using color. Even when we did this in soft pastels, you know, we had all the colors to work with. So in some ways it's easier to kind of have all the definition with, you know, and the variation with color. You know, we rely heavily on that. So if you can master the contrast of black and white, then you're doing great. And even when you're just starting out, you're doing great. So, all right, let's see. You know, it's just, you know, a lot of layers of paint. This is not paint, a lot of layers of pencil. So. But just think, you can say you did it when you're done. Yep. Let's see. And sometimes you know, you can go back into the eye. I know I had already put some black in here, but you can kind of go in the pupil. Add some other nice, really dark blacks. And even in the eye, when you're not really going to see it, I still do a rounded shape because we know that the eye is round, so that just adds to the depth of it. And then I kind of go in here and kind of soften some of this here. There's probably going to be a shadow under here too. I'm just going to add a little bit of that. So, you know, as you can see, it just takes me a lot of time too. So you guys just stick with it and you can do it, and, you know, break your horse down into simple shapes to start with. Start out with light pressure with your pencil, just blocking your basic areas, and just be slow about it and just keep going. So, and then remember just to step away from it or hold it away from you so you can see it every once in a while to just kind of reinforce that you are doing a good job and getting. Okay, so obviously I've taken some time to finish doing the horses. This one was mostly finished, but then this one, you can see it's a little more, it's sort of realistic but a little more stylized. And on the hair, you know, on the mane, I kind of, when dealing with hair, you know I've said this before, is a lot of times it's easier if you kind of focus on the shapes. You can kind of take one of your pencils and kind of get the initial shape of the mane going, you know, the flowing hair, and then kind of go back in and fill it in more like a big shape, like large pieces of hair. So, and you know, honestly, just do whatever makes you comfortable, whatever you like. It's your visual aesthetic ultimately. And I know this week was a little different because horses have smooth, you know, a smooth surface versus like when we did the woodland animals, we were focusing on the fur. So just, you know, taking into consideration, and like what we were doing earlier, is basically when you're bouncing back and forth between the black and white pencil and using the circular motion when you're working on it, and it's a lot of just blending at the same time. So, you know, when you're putting your white down, and my table is a roll, has a kind of a sag in the middle so things roll. So, and I'm just lightly going over it, and then, you know, use them both. And then also, you know, you can use your finger as a smoothing tool or as a blending tool. And remember, this is a lot of layers of pencil. This one over here has the least number of layers. This, you know, this is kind of at a finished point as well. It just looks different. This week, we're working more on filling up the space inside the horse as far as covering more paper than we have before. And a smooth surface is totally different. And that's why I just want you to take your time and just slowly build it up. Now this one, you know, it's still at a finished state, but it looks very different than these two. And you know, it's fine if yours looks a little different than the image. And like I said, there are plenty of pictures of horses on the internet, and you can find one that you love and do that. And I still think it's best just to focus on the face, because that way you don't feel like you're having to do the whole body initially. And just take your time. And you know, this ended up being a little more stylized in here, but I don't want you to think that these have to be hyper real, you know, super realistic. They can be totally stylized however you want them to be. But you can see the two that have the most white pencil and black combined really have a lot more visual depth. This one has some, but because more of the paper itself is actually showing through, it's a little bit visually flatter. And ultimately, it's wherever you want to stop. So, but really give this a try, kind of filling in the majority of the space of your horse. And just slowly take your time and just be patient. And, you know, art takes time. And I know you can do this. Just break it down into your simple shapes and just go from there. And, you know, remember that your eraser is your friend and a tool. So if there are places that you want to go in and bring, you know, if something, you can't cover black up with the white pencil, if it just keeps turning to gray, then just kind of go in and remove with your eraser. And if the more layers of pencil you have, you know, it's going to take you a little bit of time to get it off. But just seriously, be patient and just relax and do it. And then if you go, oh, well, I really kind of liked it, it was fine, and go back in and fill it in. And just be slow about it. Okay? This is just a slow process. And, you know, this is just a new process you're learning. So, smooth surfaces can be kind of tricky. So, but you can do this, and I think that's about it. So I'll be excited to see what you all come up with, and we will see you soon. Take care.